PlayStation. It's a PlayStation game. It's PlayStation Studios. Captured on PS5. Alright, so first of all, they're immediately trying to evoke Kurosawa. Famously in this game, we have Kurosawa mode. Right? It honestly wasn't that popular. Probably not because it isn't really cool. But the game is so beautiful. You kind of want to just play it with color, right? Because it's a really pretty game. But it starts out this way to give you those feelings. Cool old samurai, movie kind of feel to it. Let's continue.
We are beyond the edge of Japan.
Okay, let me stop it there. Beyond the edge of Japan. What does that mean? I don't know. Not yet. Except for, if you know anything about Japanese geography, which I don't expect anyone to necessarily know. But Yotei is in Hokkaido, which is northern Japan. It's like the furthest north part of Japan. In fact, it's so far north that, there's sometimes you can see the northern lights in certain parts of Hokkaido. But anyway, here we go. This is a burning castle. I'm assuming this is not in Hokkaido. That's Yotei.
People
that's Mount
come
Yotei.
north to disappear.
This is an important number right here, 1603. So in the year 1600 was the final battle of the Sengoku period, which is the Warring States period in Japan. Okay? So, that's the end of the feudal period is 1600. And in 1603 is kind of like the establishment of the Tokugawa government, the shogunate. It's also important for another reason, and I'm going to show you why here in a minute. Alright, so we finally get some color. It's blood.
You are hunting.
Got a wolf. So, wolves, there were wolves in Hokkaido. They're extinct now. But if you've ever seen the movie Princess Mononoke, like, that's definitely what this is kind of like a callback to, is Princess Mononoke. Because that takes place northern, actually probably around the same time as this, right? Because the Japanese are now going up into Hokkaido to colonize it, basically. But Hokkaido doesn't become a part of Japan until 18... Gosh, hold on, I'll tell you. 1869. That's a long time after. Okay, like, we're talking, 250, 260, like 260 years, 266 years after,
Every
right?
Ronin here is after you.
Okay, stopping it again. Sorry. This is also important, and I'll show you why. And again, I don't expect, people other than weirdo nerds like me to catch these things. But the two-sword style was invented by Miyamoto Musashi. Okay? Miyamoto Musashi started his sword journey in, you guessed it, 1603. Okay. 1603. He's the guy who invented the two-sword style. Let's take a look real quick. If you see this right here, can I make it big? This is Musashi. This is a self-portrait that he did. Okay. Kind of evocative of that painting. Here's another, like, real famous, well, so... Saw it a minute ago. Where'd it go? Okay, here you go. This is also... So probably, like, the best reference for Musashi, other than the book Miyamoto Musashi and, like, his writings, is the manga, Vagabond, which the manga Vagabond is about Miyamoto Musashi. Look at how he's holding his swords. I know it's angled differently, but again, this is like, this basically looks just like, you know, how they're kind of portraying this character here. Now, I don't know all of these kanji, but I know this kanji right here is woman. And I've seen a translation of this. This is, it's a wanted poster, right? But again, it's really important to you know, obviously American audiences aren't gonna be able to read this shit. They see this. If you're a fan of Japanese history and a fan of you know, Musashi and stuff, you'll know, okay, this is supposed to be Miyamoto Musashi. 1603, that's Miyamoto Musashi when he went on his journey to start becoming the greatest swordsman of all time. Okay? Let's continue.
Still think you're the hunter?
Now, okay. That's not Musashi. Lady Samurai. Nothing wrong with that. I'm playing as a Lady Samurai right now in this video game. We will talk about this though, because while there's even like a word for female samurai, it'd be either onabushi or onamusha, right? Which literally just means, ona means woman, and both bushi and musha are just other words for samurai, right? Or warrior. Okay. There's a word for it, right? And there's a reason for it, but we'll get into a little more detail about the history of onabusha. Like, they don't exist in the way that we think of samurai, okay? And never did. Okay, the guitar music is definitely evocative of like westerns, which the old samurai movies were modeled after westerns, which ironically a lot of them were remade as westerns. So it doesn't really go back to the wolf. These leaves, these are, I don't forget what the type of tree is, but that's in northern Japan, up in Hokkaido. Obviously, the use of color in the first game was really important. Okay, this is kind of key too. We'll talk about why this person in particular is important. It's the actress who's playing her. Okay, so that's it. That's the trailer. I'm gonna hide this for right now. We'll probably come back to it because I'll probably show some other stuff. But so overall, I actually think it looks really good. But they don't show you much, and there are some red flags, right? The red flags being the ones that I mentioned, the kind of subversion of Musashi, right? Um, and then honestly, that actress, her name's Erika Ishii. She pronounces it Ishii, which I think is probably a reference to Kill Bill. But that's not how you pronounce it. Oh, two I's in Japanese just makes the I sound longer. Um, but that's fine. Who gives a shit? Also, like the if we're talking about this as just a video game, like I said, obviously I'm playing as a female character in this. It's a fantasy. Who cares, right? Like, you know, like who you're playing as, right? The one qualm that I have about it is they want to base a lot of things. Well, at least Ghost of Tsushima was like largely based in historical reality, right? They very clearly take some liberties, but you know, it's very, you know, fairly realistic. But again, you know, that's not the most important thing in the world, especially when we're talking about video games. Um, though in this context, it might be, you know, like, and we'll get into the whole realism of female samurai. Again, in a fantasy, I don't have any problem with it. Um, the TV show, Blue Eyed Samurai, if anyone's seen that on Netflix, it's awesome. It's a really awesome show. I've got a lot of problems with it as far as historical accuracy and context. And actually, probably my biggest problem really has nothing to do with that, because again, it's you know, it's fantasy. But the biggest problem actually being inserting modern ideologies and modern ways of thinking, modern problems, modern like politics into something that took place during like the Sengoku period or the Edo period, right? That just doesn't make any sense. Modern sensibilities in period pieces, I don't think really belong. But that's my own personal opinion. And again, that wasn't the worst thing about this show, right? Honestly, like the show, it didn't ruin the show in any way. The show's still really good. It's just something that I noticed, right? That bothers me a little bit. Which, let's go back to the actress, right? The voice actress who's playing the main character in Ghost of Yotei. The reason that I would say there's any bit of concern there, God, they're so hard to block. Anyway, she's very outspoken politically. And I find it hard to believe that the insertion of her personal politics aren't going to come into the game, you know? Hopefully Sucker Punch doesn't do that, and they just use... Because here's the thing, she is a talented voice actress. I actually, I like some of the work that she's done. But, like, having her be the face of the game is just a little concerning. Though, again, we don't know enough about it to really know. There's a lot of people freaking out about it and, like, causing a fucking shitstorm about it. Honestly, these people are stupid and probably, like, grifters, if you ask me. I don't think there's that much reason for concern. Yet. Until we see more of the game, right? There could be. But we don't know yet. Don't see me, don't see me. Shaklaki. Okay. There we go. Another thing that we should talk about, like in relation to this, is the comparison to the new, Yasuke game. The, the Assassin's Creed Shadows. Okay, we've had some similar outrage about that. Some of it based in reality, some of it kind of silly, but it does beg the question, like, you know, like, are these people just trying to cash in on like a popular genre right now? Because, you know, Ghost of Tsushima really made the samurai genre popular again, which is awesome. I'm super excited about samurai games being popular again. But, you know, like, are they just trying to take advantage of that and insert whatever the hell they want into the game? That's the question you have to ask. In the case of Assassin's Creed Shadows, it kind of seems like that is the case, and that's why it's been delayed. That's why they're going back and working on it, like getting actual real historians, not like weird sex freaks that I don't know if you guys know this. The original historian that they hired for Assassin's Creed Shadows is like a freaking weirdo that specializes in like the relationships between adult monks and young boys, like sexual relationships. Like, she's a fucking weirdo, and like the fact that bullshit, I blocked that. Now I'm dead. All right, we might need to come back to this place. I am not strong enough to be here. Anyway, so it sounds like they're actually trying to fix that game, which is really good news. That's really good news. So it could be that that game ends up being really good as well. Yeah, we're gonna come back here. I'm getting my poo pushed in. Okay, let's just work our way up. Also, I think I can upgrade some things here. Unarmed Spark is kind of useless. We also have like all these different fucking let's see. That's not going to help right now. I'm trying to see like what's actually helpful right now. That might be helpful. This is actually awesome. You can make the dogs your homies. All right, that's all we can do for right now. We're gonna go up there. I am gonna just fast travel real quick just to get us a little closer. But yeah, so there's those things. Let's talk about the relevance of female samurai, and or whether or not they were real. Okay. Hold on. Let me. Here, we'll just do it here. Let's see. Let's see. Let's go. Okay, so the only like famous female samurai that we know of, really, when you search it, is Tomoe Gozen, right? Which this was during the Genpei War, 1180 to 1185. It's important to know that Gozen is not a name. Gozen is a like moniker given to female warriors, kind of. Let's see. Let's do this. Not that one. There you go. For female nobility, which is more important, right? Because it basically means, yeah, young lady, young lord. All right. It doesn't mean that they were a warrior, but it also isn't that person's last name. Okay, so Tomoe goes in. Possible husband of Minamoto no Yoshinaka. All right, that um, we don't actually know who she is, which tells us one thing: she's not real. She, the where we know of Tomoe Gozen from is the Heiki Monogatari, which is the tale of the Heiki and the Genji. Okay, and it's kind of like the Iliad of Japan. Um, it's like oh, that was a big fall. Um, so in the Iliad, right? The Iliad tells some historical events, right? But the characters are they are mythological characters. Tomoe Gozen is a mythological character. Okay, not a real person. Let's look at Onimusha. Okay, so again, this is a term referring to female warriors in pre-modern Japan. Okay, um, if we look through here, we see stuff talking about like yeah, the Heiki, the Genji. Again, this is a very popular historical myth. I mean, these things happened, right? But the exploits and the characters are a little bit, you know, like I said, mythological. Um, let's see. Yeah, they're mostly talking about Tomoe here because she is the most famous of these people. There's another one. Okay, here's another one. Um, Hangaku Gozen, right? Same name Gozen. It's not a real name, right? It's literally just means like young lord. They don't tell you what her last name was because we don't really know what her last name was. Because she probably didn't exist. Okay. If we go down here to the Sengoku period, so this is Warring States period, um, which would be what's going on right before Ghost of Yotei, right? Um, 1467 is when the Onin War. Actually, the Warring States period started in the 1500s and lasted to the 1600s. So it was about like roughly 100 years. But let's see. Let's see if it mentions any female samurai that are important here. Okay. So from what I can tell, we're talking about like the sister of or like the wife of a samurai. All right. Which to be fair, if you're married to a samurai or you're like part of the family of samurai, you're part of the samurai class. So yeah, you're technically samurai, right? That doesn't mean you're going out and fighting though, right? That doesn't mean you're doing a lot of fighting. From what we can tell, here we go. We've got evidence of participation in battle. Okay. Blah blah blah. So this lady fought in various battles against her nephew Date Masamune, who's a famous samurai, right? Um, but and it says she was she became famous for fighting until she was 76 years old, known as the strongest woman in the Warring States period. I don't think she's fighting until she's 76 years old. Essentially, what this is telling me, and what it actually says here, is that she's like a combat leader. Like she's like a general, right? So she'll show up, set up camp, send troops out. She's not out there, poking people with swords and stuff like that. You know. From what we can tell, the most that females engaged in combat is defending castles. Um, that's pretty much it. Defending castles. They've got like naginata and like bows and arrows. Um, they might put them like in certain lines with Yari, like with like long spears, right? Because like anyone can hold a spear out. Um, but they're not gonna be like the primary fighters in any kind of battles. They're not gonna be, like leading charges or anything like that. Let's see if we've got any other evidence here. All right, so Edo period. This is what we're talking about now. So you've got um during the Sengoku period, there's a lot more like valid reason for there to be like actual female samurai. Like like I said before, you've got um like if and there's a couple examples up there, but you've got let's say like a lord dies and she needs to lead their troops in battle, or for some reason he's not going to, she'll take responsibility for that, right? Like the wife of a daimyo or something. um but in the Edo period, they're if they're the need for like low tier samurai is becoming less and less. Okay. And so if you're like a female during that time, it like part of the samurai class, you're probably just going to be getting married to a samurai. That's your best chance of success. Like, you're not going to be one of these shugyosha like or Ronin like wandering around as swordsmen. Let's see. Because of the influence of Edo Neo-Confucianism, the status of Onimusha diminished significantly. The function of Onimusha changed in accordance with that of their husbands. Okay. Samurai were no longer concerned with battles and war, but became bureaucrats. Women, specifically daughters of most upper-class households, were soon pawns of dreams of success and power. Right? That's what's happening. Now, there's some examples of some Kenjutsu schools where some women, like it says here, broke tradition and learned different types of techniques. Again, I think there's an example I read through here. I think there's an example of like one of these, like the female like daughters of a like Kenjutsu master taking over the school. But really, again, it's kind of more in name and technique and tradition. She's not going out fighting battles. She's not doing this like lone swordsman shit, So, like, if we're talking from a realism standpoint, especially after the Sengoku period is over, to have, this Yotei lady running around, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Again, it's fantasy though, so who gives a fuck? It could be still really awesome, and once again, we don't know. What's more important to me than any of that stuff, I'm sure the game still, I've still got high hopes for the game. I think that like if they can deliver a good samurai game with good mechanics, a good story, good characters, like that's gonna be really cool. What I'm concerned about is them inserting modern sensibilities into the game. They should have it reflect the sensibilities of the time. And that's what is, a little concerning to me, is that they're not going to do that. But we don't know yet. And there's really nothing to base that assumption on, really, other than the choice of the face of the game, right? So who knows? For me though, like what I'm a little bit remorseful for, regretful for, not regretful, those are the wrong words. What I long for in a video game is particularly a samurai game, is it just being a samurai game and not having all sorts of like highfalutin like, I don't know, themes and ideas. I just want it to be a samurai game. This game that I'm playing right now, you just play as a fucking samurai. You create your character, you play as a cool samurai, and you do cool samurai shit, right? I've got a fucking pile of games right here in front of me. I'll show you guys here in a second. Of games like this that are awesome. You know, and I don't get me wrong, I'm really grateful for Ghost of Tsushima, for bringing back the genre, right? Um, but like, it doesn't have to be these big grandiose things every time. Here is a literal pile of fucking samurai games that are awesome. Let's go through these. We've got Kessen, okay? This is like a Sengoku period strategy game. You know, this is all like war simulation, war strategy taking place in the Sengoku period. You play as just samurai, nothing special. You're not like some sneaky ghost boy. Nothing. Kessen 2. Kengo, Masters of Bushido. This is quite possibly, so this is the continuation of the Bushido Blade series, or like the spiritual successor to Bushido Blade. You play as you literally are just a swordsman, and you go from dojo to dojo, learning new sword techniques and combining different sword techniques to be the best swordsman. Okay, and I've got, let's see, I've got 4 of those. Okay, we've got Kengo 1. We've got this only came out in Japan and where is it? Japan and Europe. It's called Sword of the Samurai, but in Japan this was Kengo 2. Okay. Oh, hey, that's funny. Ubisoft is the ones that publish this in Europe. That's hilarious. This is Kengo 3. Okay. Again, it's the same thing. You're just going, I don't know if you guys can see like the back of this very well. But you're just going from dojo to dojo, learning different sword techniques and becoming an awesome badass samurai. Okay? Here you go. Kengo Legend of the Nine, or in Japan and Europe, I think this was called Kengo Zero. This is a little bit different. In this one, you actually get to play as like famous Kengo or Shugyosha, like wandering samurai that went around, you know, like Musashi and Ito Itosai and, you know, people like that get to play as them and do different missions during those time periods, which is kind of fun. This is probably the worst of the Kengo series though, right here. But I think it gets a bad rap. I think it's better than people, you know, give it credit for. And for, you know, Xbox 360 is pretty cool. Unfortunately, you have to only play that on an Xbox 360. You can't play that on modern Xboxes, even with backwards compatibility, because that one's not backwards compatible. Fix that, Xbox. All right, here we go. This is probably the best samurai game series of all time. You've got Way of the Samurai. Okay. This game can be beaten in like anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour. It's got, I think, over 30 different endings. No, 40 different endings. In this game, there's 40 different swords, 200 different fighting techniques. This game's fucking awesome. It's basically like the movie Yojimbo. You play the movie Yojimbo, but you play it how you would want to play it. You go into a town, there's 2 different factions. You kind of, you know, pick who you want. Actually, technically, there's 3 factions if you count just the regular townspeople. Pick who you want to ally yourself with and go from there, you know, and you can just play this endlessly over and over again, just enjoying, you know, the different, like, you know, whatever, wandering samurai fantasy. Okay. Way of the Samurai 2, probably my favorite one of the series. Okay, this one's a little longer. I would say it takes anywhere from 1 to 3 hours to beat, maybe more. And again, tons of different endings, tons of different like character interactions, tons of different weapons. This one actually has a lot more weapons to choose from. Over more than 60 different swords to battle with. You know, awesome. Way of the Samurai 3. Okay. This one, I think this is the sleeper of the series. I think it's better than 1. It's better than 4, but not necessarily as good as 2. But it actually is my favorite setting because it's just like a kind of like a small town during Sengoku period. And there's not anything like it's kind of the most like a Kurosawa film, I guess, if you ask me. Um, like the most like Yojimbo. Okay. Let's see. Oh, there's Kessen 3. We got Genji, which is like Onimusha, but it's the tale of the Genji and the Heike. Remember Tomoe Gozen? I actually think Tomoe might be in this as a side character. Maybe. I can't remember. But again, it's just a cool fucking samurai game, right? Like a Dragon Ishin, this one's relatively new. This is Yakuza transposed over some Bakuhatsu period or Bakamatsu period. Bakahatsu means explosions. Bakamatsu period, which is like end of the Edo period, Japan, and it's really cool, especially if you like the Yakuza series. I don't really particularly care for the combat in the Yakuza series, so that kind of takes me out of this one a little bit. But the story's cool, the characters are cool. Again, it's just samurai shit, right? That's mostly it. Then you get into like the modern stuff is, where you get like Ghost of Tsushima, which is a cool game, but it's like you're very locked into Jin Sakai's story. Which is another fucking thing that should be mentioned. Jin Sakai's story ends in Ghost of Tsushima. Okay? It's done. Especially if you play the expansion. So these people like talking about how the next one was originally supposed to have Jin Sakai. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I don't think it was ever intended to have Jin Sakai in it. Because his story's over. Also, if you know anything about the history, like returning to Tsushima doesn't make any sense at all. Unless you don't involve the Mongols. Because what happened in the second Mongol invasion is the wind. The wind beat the Mongols. Okay? Like, they didn't make it ashore. So there's no Mongol invasion to speak of. Where the hell? Oh, Jesus. Die, doggies. So yeah, I really don't think that Jin Sakai was supposed to be the lead in that. But in the second one, I think very intentionally they chose who they wanted to choose and did it that way. But I don't know, we'll see. I'm a little disappointed that it's not something more akin to Musashi. They very, like I said, the two-sword style didn't even really exist until Musashi, and he probably hadn't even used it in 1603. 1604 is when he first, or when he fought the Yoshioka school, okay? And that's probably the first time that he actually used the two-sword technique. He probably didn't make it into like an official like style until much later. So for her to be using the two sword, I mean, I'm sure other people probably pulled out two swords at some point, whatever. But why can't I erase this? There we go. But I don't know, like it just seemed to me very intentional that they're like, hey, look, it's this time when you would be, seeing Musashi potentially. Like, this is exactly when he started his journey. And it's not. It's also weird that it's not taking place in Edo or Tokyo, or Kyoto rather, because I mean, kind of weird, right? Because that's where it would make sense to have like ninja, at all, right? Because that's where like the capital is, and this guy's an idiot. He on fire. I don't know. So that's kind of my spiel on the whole thing. Like, I'm cautiously optimistic about the game, but there's certain red flags, you know. The fact that it takes place in Hokkaido, like I said, Hokkaido wasn't actually part of Japan for another 200 years at that point. So what you'd probably be running into there is people escaping from like fugitives, right? Like almost exclusively fugitives, bandits, things like that. But also the Emishi and the Ainu, which are the native populations of Japan. They're kind of like the Native Americans of Japan, I guess you would call it. Definitely like native Japanese. And that's going back to the Princess Mononoke stuff. Like the main character in Princess Mononoke is Emishi. He's an Emishi tribes person. So, I mean, that'll be cool. That'll be interesting if they do that right. I'm always concerned that they're gonna ruin that shit when they try to like get too in depth. I wish they just made it like more fantasy, you know, or like this where you create your character and you just go be a fucking samurai. But you know, I get what they're trying to do. It's got to be more grandiose. So, but that is my big spiel on the whole ghost situation. Oh, that's the place that kicked my ass.